Let me be brutally honest with you. Your 20s are probably overrated. Everyone glorifies this decade like it's supposed to be the best time of your life. But the truth? It's full of mistakes, heartbreaks, and lessons that slap you in the face. If I could go back, I'd shake my younger self and say, wake up, stop wasting time trying to impress people who don't matter, and start focusing on what actually does. I made every mistake in the book, but those failures taught me the hard truths that no one tells you when you're young, and that's exactly what I'm sharing with you today. My personal experience. I used to think I had all the time in the world, going out every weekend, chasing what I thought was success, and worrying way too much about what people thought of me. But one night, I sat in my apartment, broke, stressed, and realizing none of that mattered. That's when everything clicked, and I finally got serious about my life. The deep message. Your 20s aren't about living your best life. They're about laying the foundation for your future. The sooner you embrace that, the sooner you'll stop being lost and start building a life that truly matters. The first brutal truth. People care less about you than you think. This is one of those brutal truths that can be both painful and freeing at the same time. We often grow up thinking the world is watching our every move, scrutinizing every decision, mistake, or triumph. In reality, though, most people are too busy worrying about their own lives to give yours more than a passing thought. The harsh truth is, you're not the center of anyone else's universe. When I was in my 20s, I obsessed over how others saw me. Whether it was at work, social gatherings, or even online, I was always in my head. Did I say the right thing? Do they think I'm smart enough? Am I dressed well enough? I remember one particular incident where I made a small mistake during a presentation at work. For weeks, I was convinced that everyone was laughing behind my back, thinking I was incompetent. I lost sleep over it, but guess what? No one cared. Everyone had moved on by the next day, while I was still beating myself up over something no one else even remembered. This truth applies to more than just embarrassing moments. Think about social media. We post pictures, updates, stories, often subconsciously hoping for validation, likes, or admiration. But people scroll past your life the same way you scroll past theirs. They're too busy worrying about how their own posts are being perceived. And just like you forget what you saw 5 minutes ago, they forget too. Here's the reality check. Most people are far more concerned with their own lives, their own insecurities, and their own problems. They aren't dissecting your every word or action the way you think they are. Sure, they might notice something for a moment, but it fades from their memory almost as quickly as it entered. You're not the star of their mental movie. They are. This truth can feel like a blow to the ego, but once you accept it, it's incredibly freeing. When you let go of the idea that people are constantly watching and judging you, you gain a new level of confidence. You stop letting the fear of judgment paralyze you. I started wearing clothes that made me feel good, even if they didn't fit into the latest trends. I began speaking my mind in meetings, no longer afraid of looking foolish. I took risks, knowing that even if I failed, the world would keep turning and no one would lose sleep over my failures except me. There's something beautiful about realizing you don't need to constantly perform for an audience that isn't paying attention. You stop trying to live up to others' expectations because you realize those expectations are largely imagined. You stop seeking validation from the outside because you understand that the validation that truly matters comes from within. The deep message here is this. When you understand that people care far less about you than you've convinced yourself, you unlock a massive amount of mental space. You stop living to impress others and start living for yourself. And that's where real growth begins. You can take risks, make mistakes, and pursue your passions without constantly looking over your shoulder. The only person whose opinion matters in your journey is your own. At the end of the day, you're the one who has to live with your decisions, your regrets, and your successes. So, make choices that align with your own values and goals, not with what you think others expect of you, because most of the time, they're not paying nearly as much attention as you think they are. The second brutal truth: your emotions will mislead you. This might be one of the hardest truths to accept, but it's also one of the most important. Your emotions are not reliable. They're not facts. They're fleeting reactions to external circumstances, and if you let them, they'll steer you in the wrong direction, over and over again. When I was in my 20s, I made countless decisions based on how I felt in the moment. If I was angry, I'd lash out. If I was sad, I'd isolate myself from the people who cared about me. If I was excited, I'd impulsively agree to things without thinking through the consequences. And every time my emotions led me down a path I regretted. Let's be clear, emotions aren't inherently bad. They can provide valuable insights into how we're responding to the world around us. But the problem arises when we let emotions take the driver's seat, making decisions based on how we feel rather than on what is rational, logical, or in our best long-term interest. Take anger, for instance. I remember a time when I got into a heated argument with a close friend over something trivial. In the heat of the moment, I said things I didn't mean, hurtful things that damaged our friendship for years. My anger blinded me, convincing me I was right and that my feelings justified my words. But after the storm had passed, I was left with nothing but regret. The emotion had faded, but the consequences remained. Or take sadness and frustration. Have you ever been so overwhelmed by a tough situation that you just wanted to give up? Maybe it was a job, a relationship, or even a personal goal. In my 20s, I gave up on things too easily because I let my emotions convince me it wasn't worth the fight. I dropped a project I was passionate about just because it felt too hard in the moment. I thought that because I felt defeated, I was defeated. But the truth is, emotions can exaggerate the situation and make things seem worse than they really are. I learned later that if I had stuck it out a little longer, the struggle would have passed, and I would have grown stronger from it. Another classic example: love. We often let our emotions trick us into romanticizing situations or people that aren't right for us. You've probably heard the phrase, "love is blind," and there's truth to that. In relationships, we can ignore red flags and warning signs because we're swept up in the feelings of love, attraction, or excitement. I once stayed in a toxic relationship far longer than I should have because I let my emotions convince me that I could fix things. I felt attachment, and that attachment clouded my judgment. Looking back, I can see how my emotions kept me trapped in a situation that was damaging my well-being. But here's the Stoic truth. Emotions are temporary. They flare up in response to events, but they're not permanent states. What you feel in one moment will shift in the next. This is why making decisions based solely on emotions is dangerous. They don't last, but the decisions you make can have long-term consequences. When you act purely out of anger, sadness, fear, or even excitement, you risk creating lasting damage from a temporary state of mind. The key is to acknowledge your emotions, but not let them control you. Feelings are signals. They're telling you something, but they aren't giving you the full picture. In Stoicism, the idea is to cultivate a sense of inner calm, to be the observer of your emotions, rather than the one being controlled by them. This doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. It means recognizing them for what they are, passing clouds in the sky of your mind. You watch them, understand them, but you don't let them dictate your actions. A Stoic mindset allows you to separate yourself from the whims of your emotions and make decisions based on reason, logic, and what truly serves your long-term goals. When you're calm, you can see the situation for what it really is, not just how it feels in the moment. You can assess what actions align with your values rather than being swept away by a temporary emotional wave. The deep message. When you understand that your emotions will mislead you, you gain the power to make better decisions. You don't ignore your feelings, but you don't let them dictate your actions either. Emotions are like the weather. They change frequently, sometimes without warning. But just like you wouldn't build your life around the daily weather forecast, you shouldn't build your life around how you feel in the moment. Trust your reason, not your feelings, to guide you through life's challenges. The sooner you master this, the more control you gain over your life. You stop reacting to every emotional trigger and start responding with clarity and intention. The third brutal truth: your circle will get smaller. When you're in your 20s, it's easy to believe that the friendships you have will last forever. You think those wild nights out, the shared dreams, and the inside jokes are a guarantee that these people will stick around through thick and thin. But as you grow, change, and face new challenges, you'll realize that friendships, like anything else in life, require effort, alignment, and sometimes tough decisions. People's paths diverge, priorities shift, and what once seemed unbreakable begins to naturally fade. It's not personal, it's just life. In my 20s, I was surrounded by friends. I had my inner circle of people I thought would always be by my side. But as the years went on, I watched as that circle shrank. Some friends moved away, others focused on their careers or families, and some simply drifted as our interests and values changed. There was a time when I felt a bit lost, like I was being left behind. But looking back, I realized that this was a natural and even necessary process. The truth is, not everyone is meant to stay in your life forever. Some people are there to teach you lessons, to share experiences, or to support you during certain chapters. But when those chapters end, so do many of those connections. This shrinking circle can be hard to accept, especially if you're the kind of person who values loyalty and longevity in friendships. I used to believe that if someone left my life, it was somehow my fault. Maybe I hadn't put in enough effort, or maybe I'd done something wrong. But the reality is often simpler and less dramatic than that. People grow and change, and sometimes they grow in different directions. That's okay. It doesn't mean the friendship wasn't valuable. It just means it had its time and place, and now it's time for both of you to move forward. Another reality is that as you get older, you become more discerning about who you allow into your life. In your 20s, it's easy to let anyone and everyone in, hoping to create as many connections as possible. But with experience, you realize that not everyone deserves a spot in your life. I learned that I needed friends who aligned with my values, who respected my goals, and who encouraged my growth. As I started to let go of surface-level friendships, my circle naturally became smaller, but much more meaningful. This process teaches you the value of quality over quantity. When your circle is smaller, you're left with people who genuinely matter, the ones who understand you, challenge you, and support you through your journey. You don't need dozens of people around you. You need a few who really care. The strength of a friendship isn't in how many nights you spent out together, but in the way they stand by you when things get tough, in the trust you share, and in the way they inspire you to be a better version of yourself. There's also a Stoic aspect to this, the idea that external attachments should never become a source of dependency. In Stoicism, we're taught that friendships should be based on mutual respect, understanding, and shared values. A true friend is a partner in life's journey, not someone who distracts you from your path. A smaller circle means fewer distractions and more space to focus on your purpose and self-improvement. When you let go of friendships that no longer serve you, you're not being selfish. You're making space for relationships that genuinely support your growth. The deep message is, your circle will get smaller, and that's not something to fear. It's something to embrace. The people who remain in your life are there because they are aligned with who you are becoming. They are the ones who celebrate your wins, comfort you in your losses, and challenge you when you need it most. Instead of seeing a shrinking circle as a loss, view it as an evolution, a refinement of the people who truly matter. It may seem lonely at times, but as you let go of those who don't align with your path, you'll find yourself surrounded by people who truly enrich your life. And that, in the end, is more valuable than the biggest social circle you could ever imagine. Fourth, discipline outweighs motivation. Motivation is great when it's there. It can feel like a sudden burst of energy, pushing you to tackle your goals with enthusiasm. But motivation is unpredictable, often coming and going without warning. Relying on it to achieve anything substantial is like waiting for perfect weather to go outside. You might end up waiting forever. Discipline, on the other hand, is steady and reliable. It's the ability to stick with your commitments regardless of how you feel. In my 20s, I would start things with excitement, only to drop them when that initial spark faded. I'd think, I'll get back to it when I feel inspired again. But what I didn't realize was that progress isn't made in bursts of inspiration. It's made through consistent, daily effort. The beauty of discipline is that it frees you from depending on fluctuating moods. When you're disciplined, you train yourself to act according to your goals rather than your feelings, showing up whether you're motivated or not. Over time, this consistent action compounds, bringing real results in ways that motivation alone never could. The deep message: motivation may spark a fire, but discipline keeps it burning. When you choose discipline over waiting for motivation, you take control of your path and build the resilience needed to achieve things that truly matter. 5. You'll fail more than you succeed. It's not the most comforting thought, but it's one of the most liberating. You're going to fail a lot. In fact, failure will likely be a more frequent companion than success. But here's the thing. Failure isn't just an obstacle, it's a teacher. It shows you where you went wrong, what you can improve, and what it truly takes to reach your goals. In my 20s, I was terrified of failure. I saw it as a reflection of my worth, believing that every misstep somehow defined me. This mindset kept me from taking risks, made me hesitant to pursue big goals, and even led me to give up prematurely. But I eventually learned that each failure was just a stepping stone, bringing me one step closer to my target. When you embrace failure as a natural part of the journey, you become more resilient. You start to see setbacks not as defeats, but as opportunities to grow. Successful people aren't those who never fail. They're the ones who fail repeatedly, learn from it, and keep going. Thomas Edison famously failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. His response? I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. That's the mindset of someone who understands the role of failure in success. This isn't to say failure doesn't sting. It does. But every time you get back up, you build strength, wisdom, and experience. These failures teach you what your textbooks and motivational quotes can't. They show you your weaknesses, push your limits, and make your eventual success all the more worthwhile. The deep message: you'll fail more than you succeed, and that's perfectly okay. Each failure is a lesson, preparing you for the success that lies ahead. Embrace it, learn from it, and keep moving forward, because resilience, not perfection, is what leads to lasting achievement. 6. Perfection is a lie. In our 20s, many of us chase an idealized version of life. The perfect career, the perfect relationship, the perfect version of ourselves. Social media doesn't help either. It's full of flawless images, filtered lives, and highlight reels, making perfection seem not only attainable, but expected. But here's the truth. Perfection is an illusion, a constantly moving target that can never be fully reached. It's a myth that keeps us perpetually dissatisfied, chasing something that doesn't actually exist. I used to think that if I just worked a little harder or pushed myself a bit more, I could finally reach that perfect state. I believed that success meant having it all together, with no flaws or failures in sight. But every time I got close to my idea of perfect, something would shift, revealing new flaws or higher standards to reach. It became exhausting and, honestly, demotivating. I wasn't moving forward. I was stuck in a cycle of self-criticism and unrealistic expectations. The beauty of letting go of perfection is that it frees you to actually grow. When you stop striving for an impossible ideal, you give yourself room to make mistakes, to experiment, and to learn. You understand that imperfection is not a setback. It's a sign of being real, of being human. What truly matters is not the flawless result, but the journey, the progress you make, and the resilience you develop along the way. This mindset shift doesn't mean you should settle for mediocrity. It means recognizing that progress is a process, and that done is better than perfect. Every artist, every writer, every entrepreneur has had to accept this at some point. The world's most impactful work isn't perfect. It's the work that was finished, put out there, and shared with others, despite its flaws. The deep message: perfection is a lie, and it only holds you back. Real fulfillment comes from progress, not from reaching some impossible standard. Embrace your imperfections, and you'll find that they are often where your greatest strengths lie. 7. Ego will ruin you. Ego is like an invisible anchor. It's a voice telling you you're special, unique, even invincible. In your 20s, when you're building your career, relationships, and self-identity, ego can trick you into believing you don't need advice, that your way is the only way, or that you're above the lessons others had to learn the hard way. But here's the hard truth. Unchecked ego is a trap that keeps you from reaching your true potential. It convinces you that staying comfortable is the same as making progress, blinding you to reality and hindering your growth. I learned this the hard way. I remember a time early in my career when I was convinced I knew best. I turned down advice from colleagues, dismissed feedback, and shut myself off from valuable opportunities to learn. I thought asking for help would make me look weak, and that admitting I didn't know something would undermine my credibility. But what it really did was isolate me, slow my progress, and keep me repeating the same mistakes. My ego was protecting my pride, but, ironically, hurting my potential. The Stoics often warned against ego, viewing it as one of the biggest barriers to wisdom and growth. When we're consumed by ego, we're driven by pride, defensiveness, and a fear of being exposed. Ego tells us we're already great, already skilled, and it prevents us from seeing where we fall short. It discourages vulnerability, which is key to meaningful learning and improvement. Ego doesn't want to face challenges that might expose weaknesses. Instead, it prefers comfort, recognition, and staying within the boundaries of what's known and safe. The irony, though, is that people who achieve the most are those willing to be humble students throughout their lives. They recognize that growth requires constant learning and adaptation, even if that means admitting ignorance or failures. Many successful people attribute their achievements to a willingness to ask for help, to listen to those who came before them, and to accept that they don't have all the answers. People who embrace humility tend to be resilient. They learn from setbacks, adapt quickly, and don't let pride keep them from opportunities for growth. Letting go of ego doesn't mean you lack confidence or ambition. Instead, it means having the courage to be curious, to ask questions, to listen, and to acknowledge that there's always more to learn. When you release the need to always be right or to protect your image, you free yourself to grow in ways that are meaningful and lasting. You find that the humility to accept your limitations is a source of true strength, allowing you to progress with resilience rather than relying on an illusion of perfection. The deep message is, ego will ruin you if you let it. Drop the need for validation, embrace humility, and remember that true confidence comes from being open to growth. In the end, letting go of ego isn't a loss. It's a gain that clears the path toward your best self. 8. Health is everything. When you're young, health often feels like a given, like it's something you'll always have in reserve. You push your body to its limits, skimp on sleep, fuel yourself on caffeine and convenience foods, thinking that you'll get serious about taking care of yourself later. But here's the truth. Without good health, nothing else really matters. You can have money, success, relationships, and goals, but without your physical and mental well-being, it all starts to lose meaning. In my 20s, I remember prioritizing everything but my health. I'd pull all-nighters, skip meals, or rely on quick fixes to keep up with a busy schedule, thinking I was invincible. But what I didn't realize was that I was slowly chipping away at my own energy, focus, and resilience. Over time, those little compromises build up, and they take a toll. You might not feel it at first, but years of poor sleep, bad eating habits, and stress will catch up with you. Health isn't just about avoiding illness. It's the foundation for everything you want to accomplish. Good health gives you the energy to pursue your goals, the clarity to make better decisions, and the resilience to handle life's ups and downs. When you take care of your body and mind, you're building a solid base that supports all the other aspects of your life. And the truth is, investing in your health now will save you countless regrets and expenses later. It's easy to take our bodies for granted, especially when everything seems to be running smoothly. But the habits you build in your youth will either reward or haunt you in your later years. The late nights, stress, and neglect don't just vanish, they accumulate. What you eat, how often you move, how much you sleep, and how you manage stress are all daily choices that shape your future health. Mental health is just as crucial. Ignoring stress, pushing through burnout, or bottling up emotions can lead to mental fatigue and long-term health issues that become increasingly difficult to undo. Taking the time to care for your mind through self-reflection, rest, mindfulness, or seeking help when needed isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. The deep message: health truly is everything. Without it, life becomes limited, and even the simplest joys feel hard to appreciate. The small acts of self-care you do today are investments that pay off over a lifetime. When you treat your body and mind as the priceless resources they are, you set yourself up not just to succeed, but to live fully. 9. Material things won't bring happiness. It's easy to think that happiness lies just on the other side of the next purchase. The designer clothes, the latest tech, the bigger apartment, the dream car. Society constantly tells us that more is the path to fulfillment. And in our 20s, many of us chase after these things, believing they'll finally make us happy. But here's the hard truth. Material things only bring fleeting pleasure. The thrill of a new purchase fades, and the satisfaction we get from possessions is almost always temporary. I remember saving up for things I thought would make me feel accomplished. I'd buy the new phone, the high-end shoes, the nice apartment furnishings, and for a brief moment, I'd feel that satisfaction. But it didn't take long before I was craving the next thing, the next upgrade. This cycle of consumerism is endless. No matter what you acquire, there's always something else that seems just a bit better, something that promises to complete you. But the reality is, material things often leave us emptier than we started because they can't fill the deeper needs we're truly after. True happiness doesn't come from what you have. It comes from who you are and the quality of your relationships, experiences, and inner growth. Studies even show that after a certain point, additional wealth and possessions don't increase happiness. Once basic needs are met, the impact of money on happiness becomes minimal. What truly makes people feel fulfilled are experiences, connections, and personal growth, things that money alone can't buy. When we rely on material things for happiness, we end up on a hedonic treadmill, constantly seeking the next thing to maintain a feeling that's always slipping away. And the worst part? When your happiness is dependent on what you own, it's vulnerable. Possessions can be lost, damaged, or replaced, and they often don't live up to the expectations we attach to them. When happiness is tied to things, it's fragile, temporary, and always just out of reach. Contrast that with the satisfaction that comes from experiences and personal connections. Spending time with loved ones, learning new things, working on personal goals, or giving back to others, these things create lasting fulfillment that doesn't fade like material possessions do. And when you focus on these, you find that your life becomes richer, not from having more, but from needing less. The deep message: material things can make life comfortable, but they can't make it meaningful. True happiness comes from within and is built on relationships, experiences, and growth. When you stop looking for joy in what you can buy and start investing in who you are, you find a type of happiness that's real, lasting, and entirely yours. The last brutal truth: sacrifices are necessary. In life, there's no way around it. If you want to achieve something meaningful, you'll have to make sacrifices. This is one of those hard truths that can be tough to accept in your 20s, a time when you want to experience everything life has to offer without limitations. But the reality is that real progress, success, and growth often come with a cost, and learning to prioritize what matters most requires letting go of what doesn't serve those priorities. For years, I believed I could have it all without really giving anything up. I'd try to juggle everything: work, social life, personal hobbies, believing that it was possible to be fully committed to every area of my life at the same time. But eventually, I realized that spreading myself too thin meant I wasn't making meaningful progress anywhere. I'd end up tired, stressed, and feeling like I was just treading water. To move forward, I had to make some tough choices, saying no to things that distracted me from my goals and letting go of habits that didn't support where I wanted to be. Every meaningful achievement, whether it's building a career, pursuing a passion, or fostering a deep relationship, demands time, energy, and focus. To truly excel in one area, you have to prioritize it, and that means sacrificing time or energy that might otherwise go towards something more immediately enjoyable. Think of an athlete training for a competition. They sacrifice nights out, indulgent meals, and sometimes even friendships to maintain their regimen. The same goes for anyone building something of value. There's often a silent trade-off that others don't see. Life in your 20s is a whirlwind of discovery, ambition, and sometimes missteps. These truths aren't meant to hold you back, but to free you. By understanding them now, you can avoid the painful lessons that so many learn the hard way. Embrace the reality that life isn't about perfection. It's about growth, resilience, and purpose. Take each of these truths and make them your foundation as you build a life that's not just successful, but meaningful. Remember, the journey isn't always easy, but it's worth it. So take a breath, embrace the challenges, and know that each step you take is one closer to the life you're meant to live. Thanks for watching, and here's to living boldly, learning deeply, and growing into the best version of yourself. See you in the next one.